Welcome to the first Empowerment Project podcast.
Yes.
Me and Pavla now have created the Empowerment Project roughly about 12 months ago. And we thought it would be a great idea to introduce a podcast, really to give you guys a better insight to our journey, but also as well for us to potentially bring some clients in at some point, as well as guest speakers. So we're starting off podcast one, predominantly speaking about Pavla and her journey. So, Pavla, date back a little bit. Give the listener a bit of perspective. Who is Pavla?
Who is Pavla? So, I am 32 years old. I am originally from Czech Republic. Moved to London, now going to be 13 years. And, like all my childhood, I've been struggling with weight, confidence, nutritional habits, lifestyle habits, and I got myself to the point where I'm probably the happiest and healthiest I've ever been.
Amazing. It's been a long journey as well, right?
Yes, it's been a very long journey, up and downs. Exciting though, and I've learned a lot about myself as a person and then as a coach as well.
So when you first come to London, was you into the gym then, or like how long did it sort of take you to sort of maybe adapt and change your lifestyle? Obviously 13 years ago you came here.
Oh yeah. Well, just to kind of get a better understanding, I was the kind of child who would never do any physical activity. Whenever there was something going on at school, I would always get my doctor to sign me off that I didn't have to participate. But that was purely because of my confidence, because I was a little bit heavier and I wasn't very good at sport. And then obviously moving to London, obviously London's very busy, very different than where I'm coming from. And then because of my job, first I was an au pair, then nanny, and then actually I started to work in the gym and seeing the people looking after themselves and, feeling good. It kind of inspired me to work on myself a little bit more as well.
Yeah, for you it was a big journey of personal growth. Obviously, you feeling more confident about yourself was a massive part of it. For you wanting to live a different, healthier lifestyle was huge.
Yes.
But I even remember when we were even just first friends. So we were friends for, probably should add that one in there, probably like 2 years before we started dating. Yes. That I always used to have a go at you and tell you that you need to not be such a pushover and stick up for yourself a little bit more.
That's very true.
Nowadays I now try and tell you to be quiet in some situations. So let's just say your confidence is grown a lot.
Yeah.
And a large part of that journey, your fitness journeys influence you for other parts of your life as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It, obviously I used to have a corporate job. After working in the gym, I was managing a reception, a big team full of people. And then I kind of realized, once I started to help you during COVID, that actually what gives me the biggest fulfillment is helping women on the similar journey like me to, get into training, feeling great and really prioritizing themselves and focusing themselves rather than comparing to other people and just feel happy and confident and, go to a party, wear favorite dress, go on a holiday and wear bikini and just feel good.
A large part of that stemmed from the fact that I'm guessing you didn't have that for a large part of your life. You would be very selective in terms of where you hung out, what you did, yes. What people thought of you.
Oh, yes. I was always like, the one thing for me, it was always how other people perceive me. I was always trying to please everyone rather than myself. And I would hide behind black baggy clothes. And I was just always doing what other people would kind of want me to do rather than actually what I wanted to do for myself.
Yeah, and another interesting part of it as well is you would definitely not have done anything like this 12 months ago.
No.
Because you would have also been worried about the fact that, English is your second language.
Yes, that's my weakness, strength, I don't know. But obviously because it's not my native language, I'm still very cautious of my mistakes and I know I make them, but it's okay, I'll learn.
Well, I definitely wouldn't say weakness. You learned to speak English 11 or 12 years ago when first moving here. Prior to that, you could barely hold a sentence together, right?
Yeah, probably hello.
Yeah, and I now come to you to ask you how to spell most things most days. Bear in mind, I'm supposedly English, so there we go. That really says a lot, right? So obviously, when we started doing the business together, the Empowerment Project, roughly about 18 months ago now is when you fully got on board, give or take, maybe a little bit less than that. But obviously prior to that, like you said a minute ago, you were helping me out for a good couple of years. So you got a good idea to how it worked. Obviously the functionality of how we did things was a little bit different then. We were doing more like group style stuff, which was good from a community aspect. It wasn't tailored enough for people to actually like get the one-to-one support they needed. So we obviously pivoted the model probably a little bit before you actually joined full time, but you obviously got a good understanding of like how to help people, how to support people. You went on what was a very big journey yourself then. Wasn't necessarily done, but you were a fair amount forward based on the people you wanted to help. But I mean, it'd probably be good to give the listeners some perspective, like what was you, what are some of the things you've tried previously that maybe when you were trying to improve your health and fitness and things wasn't clicking for what was quite a long period of time? Just a little bit of an overview there.
Christ, I think I've tried everything, all sorts of diets, demonizing food groups, thinking I'm not going to be able to eat carbs, like not eating, then eating excessively during the weekend. It was always, then I would just train all the time thinking that's going to get me the results. And I was just always probably focusing on the results, and I always thought I have to look certain way because I used to compare myself a lot to people on social media. That was one of my big thing. And then obviously you told me one day to just unfollow all these people. And then I did. And then once I kind of realized that I want to do this for myself, I want to feel healthier, and just break down the goal into small little chunks and really focus on like nutrition and knowing what I'm eating and how much I'm eating, and getting into training because I loved it, not because I punished myself for something I ate the day before. That's when things started to click. When I really did it for myself, I forgot about the rest of the world. I wasn't looking at other people, how they look on social media. And that is honestly when I started to see the improvements. Because it wasn't, I kept, thinking it's so difficult to get the results, but actually it's not if you just stay accountable, you're true to yourself and you just do your daily tasks. It's all about, there's multiple things to focus on, from steps, sleeps that I never cared about, hydration, stress levels. And then once I focused on that when everything just fit.
Yeah, and I suppose a large part of it has been for you is actually probably no different to what we try and do with all of our clients nowadays. And it's just simplifying things, right? Massively.
Yep.
Like, for you overcomplicated the process. You were focusing on way too much, and therefore doing everything with, half-heartedly, right? And therefore your expectations of results were huge, and what was actually happening, it wasn't matching your expectations for a long time.
No.
And I'm guessing that probably relates to a lot of the audience that we help, right? And it may be even for some other coaches as well, when they'll ask us like what we're doing and how we've built our business, and they think there's like loads of crazy stuff going on in the background. When the reality is all we're trying to constantly do is actually simplify things, make it easier and easier for people to actually just understand the basics and take action on the basics. And therefore, like results, whether like scale weight and things like this in the grand scheme of things are not important, they also are important in the fact that like if you're wanting to see some changes and you're not seeing changes, you're going to lose your interest very quickly if you don't necessarily see the results that you want.
Yeah.
So now I'm guessing we should probably talk a little bit more about the photo shoot prep you went on. Obviously for you got to a stage, I mean, if again, the listener gets some perspective on this, you can maybe tap into it in a bit more detail, but you were probably around the 100 kilos mark for a while, right? For a large part of your teens and your early 20s, coming into London. And then you made some progress by doing all the different things that you suggested, different diets and stuff like this. But I'm guessing you felt like it was still a bit of a consistent battle and you were hovering around sort of the 75 to 80 kilo mark for a while. So you dropped a good sort of 2 or 3 stone. And while you felt better, you still didn't necessarily feel like the job was done. You didn't feel like where you were. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was between the 75, 78 for a very long time. And I just thought, that's it for me. I can't like break it down. But like you said, I did wanted to push myself that little bit more. I kind of knew I'm not done yet, and that's when I actually got to coach myself, because I knew I'm gonna have to be a little bit more accountable. And although I have you, sometimes you take things for granted, so I wasn't really listening, and that's why.
Wasn't that? I'd say I firstly I refused the offer. I was like,
you refused.
Well, I sort of did. I was like, this. I am not in them situations. It's always better that you're working with someone that you obviously, not necessarily even know, but someone you feel like you can trust.
Yeah.
but also someone that you're going to take the criticism from correctly. Because like the same and different with our clients, it's like they know, I should say, that when we maybe are pushing them a little bit, it's coming from a good place. And sometimes if they're not doing the work they should be doing, like, you know, we always empathize with them, but we always tell them what they need to hear at the same time, right? Because ultimately, otherwise we're not doing our job. And I'm guessing if that comes from me telling you, that's more likely going to spring an argument.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
It probably did. So I got myself a coach because I wanted to push myself to that another level. And, you know, it didn't take me long till I broke down the 75. I got to 74, then 70, 68. And still I knew I could push myself that little bit more, especially for the shoot. You know, I had a like time-bound goal in my mind. We were going Ibiza, you know, it was just before the summer. So I really wanted to push it and see what I can do. And then, I got myself to 64, obviously had my shoot then. It's been a massive challenge, and that is where I think in that 5 to 6 months, that I think that's where I learned the most about myself as a woman going through a diet, as a coach, and all the experiences I've kind of collected along the process. I can now help my clients, you know, in their journeys, you know, when it comes to scale relationship, not progressing week on week, you know, getting disheartened because I was there, you know, like you can push. I was doing all 20K steps for 2 weeks in a row. I've seen no results whatsoever, but it's just about staying consistent. So right now I could always relate to my clients, but now I can relate even more because I went through all the steps and I know how it feels to get to where you want to be, then maintain, and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, a large part of that as well is if we think back previously, I think what's happened there is you've obviously changed your mindset predominantly. It's more longer term thinking, you've got more of a growth mindset, and you're more focused on following principles rather than worrying and daily actions rather than actually worrying about short-term outcomes.
Yeah.
Where obviously previously, if you remember, you'll probably laugh, that used to tell me that once you got to 75, it was impossible for you to go any lower. And I don't think that really ever happened, did it? I mean, well, like you, I always thought that, you know, for yourself where you were, it was great. But I know yourself, you wasn't happy and you wanted more. And you always felt like you had this consistent battle with your health and fitness where like you were in a place where it was obviously a lot better than where you were previously. Yeah. You still wasn't where you wanted to be, and you still felt like you were putting in a huge amount of effort and not seeing any return at all. So you always used to tell me, it doesn't work for me. It's different for me. Things don't change. But the reality was you just wasn't accountable with the things as much as you potentially could have been. And I'm guessing your efforts were still elsewhere. Your efforts were training. Yeah. Well, it is important. And obviously we'll talk about this more in a minute. That now is more of your focus at the moment. At the time, your focus was fat loss and you wasn't accountable with things that moved the needle, right? And while it was still dressed up relatively nicely in terms of your food, I'm guessing there was still so much guesstimation involved. Yeah. And therefore, like the results were lagging, right? I
still remember the day when obviously there's different approaches we take, obviously, with our clients, and I did with myself. But before I started my photo shoot prep, I would be saying I'm tracking my calories. And I remember you asking me, like, do you actually know how much you're eating? And I'm just like, no, like, I think. So obviously, yes, there was a lot of guessing and estimating. And then I would restrict myself. Then it would go just the other way the next day. So yeah, like you said, there was no accuracy, no consistency, no accountability whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's not even the fact it needs to be aggressive. It needs to be consistent for just even a relatively short period of time so you can analyze the data. And more often than not, you're going to see things move. Yep. Like most people either go too hard for 5 or 6 days and therefore by day 7 or 8, they're lacking consistency, or they just generally winging it, like which was what was probably happening here. And then we always say clients nowadays is like try to look at your results in at least 14 to 21 day cycles, and ideally realistically 28-day cycles, because just because you've done something this week doesn't mean you're going to see a return at the end of the week. And this refers back to what you were saying a minute ago. Like for you, rather than doing things, you know, over a 2-week period and expecting to see change like you would have done before, and you didn't see change, so you got disheartened and actually your adherence dropped, is now you've been thinking things in a bit more of a wider term scope. And the reality is in 6 months, you sort of went from a place where you were maintaining for years to losing almost another 2 stone and sort of exceeding what you actually thought was possible initially with your results, right? Yeah. So it totally transformed your perspective again on your health and fitness, and definitely your confidence and the person you are now, I'd say. Yeah.
And, you know, I had the days where I wanted to throw the towel in, if that's how you say it, I think. But and obviously, like, you saw me, like, there were days where I was really stressed and struggling, but I also knew why I'm doing this. I knew my why, and that just kept me going, and I knew I was accountable with myself. That's the thing. Like, if you're being honest with yourself and you're doing all your little things, the results are going to happen in the background. You might not see it on the scales, but they are going to be happening.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mean, one of the first questions I always ask people, because obviously I take all the discovery calls. So these are just really like 15-minute calls where we'll sit out, we'll get someone on the phone that wants to find out more about the empowerment project. We'll just run through where they're at, where they would like to be. We then talk about the program, and if they want to do it, they start. And if not, we just give them some things to go away with. Like, our aim with everything we do initially is just to lead with value. We just want to help people, and then if they want to further help from us, then they can find out more about what we do. But one of the first questions I ask on the call, once I've understood about where they are, where they want to be, and their actual, like, more specific goals, is why they want to achieve it. I think that's hugely important. Like, it's okay to sometimes have a selfish goal, like I want to feel great in a bikini in the summer, like that's fine, and if that's enough to motivate you alone, then great. But I tend to find with people there's more of a deeper reason behind it as well. Like, obviously for you were lacking in confidence, you wasn't necessarily being the person you wanted to be.
No.
Like, I always should say I know the real Pavla, the fiery one.
No one else did.
No one else did. Well, whether it's a positive or negative for the world, I think everybody does nowadays. So it's good. It's good that, like, something just like, it may seem on paper simple for some people, like a photo shoot transformation. For you, it was obviously a lot more than that. And we tend to find with our clients is very much the same as well. Like, it brings out, a version of yourself. And I also find, I'm sure a lot of people listen to this will agree as well, that, like, when you feel your best, it allows other things to sort of click elsewhere, whether it's work, relationships, family life. And I generally think having more self-discipline with yourself will tap into other areas of your life as well, right?
Yeah, and, like, there's so many women struggling with confidence, and it's such a shame, it's just because of social media, and we just compare ourselves to others. And so, yeah, that's why I just enjoy helping women to just feel great and focus on themselves. It's very important.
Yeah. So now we'll sort of talk a little bit about what you've been doing, what would have been since our shoot finished around about September last year. So after that, then we've now, well, both of us, in fact.
That was June, isn't it? June.
Okay. So yeah, but then you did the last one with me around September time.
Maintaining.
Right? Yeah, maintaining. So you maintained from June onwards. But then obviously after that, from September onwards, it's been more so performance focused.
Yes.
So obviously, don't want to talk too much about me today because it's about you. But obviously I've decided to do an Ironman from Christmas Day. So I'm preparing for that this year, and we'll probably talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Because we now have a bike in the living room, and you're over the moon about
it. We
are
very excited for that.
The weddings took a back seat. We'll talk about that another time.
We'll think about that.
But obviously a large part of, for me doing some performance focus was the fact that I exceeded maybe a fat loss goal, and it was great, but it's then good to transition away from that for a period of time. And I know it's been very much the same with you as well. So you've been focusing on more performance related stuff recently. So yeah, maybe give a bit of perspective on that and how that's been going for you.
Yeah, so I think, because I never used to train ever in my life, like I said. And then obviously because of you and my other friend Corey, you guys kind of helped me in the gym, get my confidence. And then I started to slowly getting into strength training, and then discovering that I am actually quite good, and I'm quite strong. And, every week or 3 to 4 weeks, I can challenge myself, and feeling that I am getting stronger, it kind of made me fall in love with it just a little bit more and more. And then, like, now, obviously, because my fat loss is finished, I do have performance goals in my mind, because, again, like, right now I'm in a stage where my strength is just increasing, and I've never, ever been this strong in my life. I've never thought I'll be able to lift what I do, and it's just another challenge for me. And it, what I do in the kitchen does reflect on how I lift in the gym. So yeah, it's been really, really good, and I'm loving my gym sessions now. But it started from me being scared going to the gym. I would go, saw the gym area full of men, how it is in Baker Street. Then I would just turn around, walk away. Or any gym. Then I would just hide in the studio. I would be doing classes, but obviously I saw no progress. That's why then you obviously kind of helped me, and I was slowly getting into it. And there was a point where I would just go to the weights area, and I would forget about everyone else because all the girls think, everyone's looking at me, I'm doing it wrong, but actually they don't. I started to focusing on my own workout, challenging myself, and then that's how I gradually started to get more confident up until to where I am now, where I just really don't care who's in the gym. I just focus on my own lifts and improving and getting stronger. But, I still have days where I feel weak. We're all women going through, a woman, that the ladies who are listening are going through their cycles. They will know, they're not always the strongest. And if you don't sleep, stuff like that. So I know how to monitor my workouts and not feel bad if one day I go to the gym and I'm not feeling the best. I just modify my workout a little bit, but I still get it done. It helps me with focus. I cannot imagine my life now without training. I love it.
And a large part of your audience are maybe people that they may have been in and out the gym. They may have been doing classes. Some of them may just work out at home. Some of them may not work out at all. But they're more towards like a beginner or intermediate stage of their training, right? Where I'd say mine are probably more intermediate to advanced nowadays. So I'm guessing your clients are just like one step backwards in terms of where they're at. And the good thing is that you totally understand how they feel in that gym environment because you were literally there. I remember when I first started helping you back in the day when I used to be a PT on the gym floor, it was like, I used to have to drag you down the stairs to get you in the gym. I used to hate it.
I would try to take him for coffee rather than train.
We go for a coffee instead.
I remember that.
But I mean, obviously, it'd be good to hear your thoughts on that in terms of how you've built that confidence up over time. I mean, a large part of it was obviously having a plan and just simplifying the hell out of what you do, right?
Yeah. Honestly, it would just start with little steps, even just going to the gym area, at the weights area, just being there for a little bit. Even if I would do few exercises with dumbbell and a bench, just stayed in my little circle and that was it. And then gradually, starting to get more comfortable with the gym layout, the workout plan, and then the exercises itself, knowing I'm actually doing it right and feeling it where I should be feeling it. And then it just clicks and suddenly you're just there. But it's something I never used to like to do. But you just have to give it a go. It might not be comfortable at times, but it's like with everything else. If you do it multiple times, it is going to get easier up until where you literally, like I said, you will forget who is in the gym. You just go there and do your own thing.
Yeah. And I mean, like a large part of that is the repetitiveness of just doing it, right? And I know it's easier said than done, but it's like pushing yourself a little bit. It's like, I suppose a large part of your health and fitness journey comes back to what I said earlier, is like a little bit of element of personal growth. And that sometimes comes from being a little bit uncomfortable. So like the whole photo shoot prep, that was a little bit uncomfortable for you, being in front of that camera, doing what we're doing here now. But obviously you've done it so many times where it becomes a bit more comfortable. Right? A little bit.
It's actually a little bit easier than I thought.
Yeah, exactly. So it's no different with the gym situation. And I think for a lot of women, it's no different to guys. Like let's even put aesthetics aside for a minute. Strength training has huge benefit to us all, right? And I'm guessing a lot of people will be doing things externally to that do have benefit, but not as much, and especially based on their goals. So like, the easier options are going to classes. The easier options are, just jumping on the cardio machine. And where I'm all for loving cardio, I mean, for most people, they need to have a good baseline level of strength as well. And like, even with the classes, even if they think they're doing strength training, like things like body pump is not strength training, right? It's 1,000,001 reps with poor technique. And I mean, a large part of what we need to be doing is more focusing on actually mastering certain movements. And don't be wrong, like we still get clients to do classes. If they like classes, we'd like do them. You've got to have things inside of your weekly routine that you look forward to, that you enjoy, even if they're not necessarily goal specific, right? But if you're not doing things that actually drive the needle in terms of what you want to achieve, and you're then getting disheartened, this is where you're then going to lack consistency, right?
Yes.
And it comes back to what we always speak about. We hate that word motivation, right?
Yes.
When clients give us that, we do give them what for.
Doesn't exist.
It more comes down to obviously some self-discipline.
Yes.
But I generally think self-discipline is achieved by you actually starting to slowly see that your efforts are paying off.
Yeah.
Right? So this is why we need to make sure, like, okay, here's what you want to achieve. This is what's going to give you the best return on your time and efforts based on what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you're leaning into that, you're more likely going to keep leaning into it because you're getting what you want, even on the days where you don't feel as inspired to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Yeah. Because, you will wake up and you will not want to go to, especially in winter time, but you just still get it done because you need to find out why there's something behind training that you obviously are going to enjoy. So just, you have to focus on that. And, like I said, it helps me to start my day and be motivated. And I only train 4 times a week, but I really focus in those sessions, and they are my time. And
yeah, I mean, most people think you need to thrash yourself in the gym, and like a lot of clients we'll talk to as well, they're doing like 5 or 6 days a week, classes, maybe sometimes an hour to hour and a half a time. And there's maybe some objections to people joining the program, like, I don't have much time. Well, because they maybe define what they're already doing and then think, they now have got to do more on top. Where if anything, we actually get people to normally do less. It's just more specific.
Yeah.
And I'll say the average client that we work with trains 3 times a week. Some of them 4, but really no more than that. No. And we're the same. I may train 4 or 5, but to be honest, 1 or 2 of them sessions just because I just want to be there and I enjoy it. And it's like my version of downtime. I get that's not the same for everybody. But if we're more specific in the approach, 30 to 45 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week in the gym is way more than enough.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously a large part of what people need to do to start with, especially based on most people's goals, is if it's body composition related, energy, lifestyle related, it's going to be nutritionally focused, right? So that's where we try to get a lot of our clients to put their attention. And same again, it doesn't have to be like these fancy, like sort of TikTok meals that you see that take a lot of time to create. Well, they do look good on paper, and I do convince Pavla to make some of them sometimes. So I'll just tag her and stuff daily.
Oh yeah.
You want to think about simplicity, right? More simple the better.
Yeah.
Easier to prepare, easier to take action on, and it can still taste good. It doesn't need to be bland and boring. Like, we very much enjoy how we eat. And it doesn't really feel like nowadays that we have to pick between like, processed food or like, candy versus good food, just because we like both of them and they both taste as good. But obviously one of them just makes us feel better than others. So it's an easy decision to make. But I'm guessing if you're trying to make food choices that are first of all hard to prepare, second of all that don't taste good, then you're always going to keep reverting back to what you did previously. And I'm guessing that's probably what you did before. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I was never really enjoying my nutrition. And like I said before, I always thought if I want to get some decent results, I really do have to restrict myself big time. But now, we go for meals out. We have a couple of drinks here and there, but we are just accountable. We find trade-offs. And but for the rest of the time, I do all the cooking, just so you know.
Wait there. I cook once a year, Valentine's Day.
What? Oh my God. Last Valentine's Day he cooked.
It's coming up again this week. It's my time to shine.
Oh, anyway. And basically, I never used to cook. Jacob could tell you all about that. Now I actually really enjoy it. And I enjoy eating well, but also improvise and make sure the food looks and tastes great. There's lots of taste in the food actually, and that's what I also enjoy my clients to help, with snacks, desserts, some dips, because like I said, if you're on a journey where you start, you might think, I have to give up everything, my social life and stuff like that, but actually you can keep your social life, you can have variety in your diet, as long as you kind of like stay accountable, plan in advance and find trade-offs, because we do exactly the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's just talk about the last 48 hours. So we've been to Cornwall and back. It's been a bit of a crazy 48 hours, hence why I probably look exhausted. And the dogs kept us up because they didn't like where they were sleeping. But I mean, what did we have? Obviously not last night, the night before. We had a spicy pizza at a restaurant, right? And a couple sides. And then yesterday we had a Cornish pasty, of course. Can't take you back to my hometown and not have a proper Cornish pasty. So, I mean, do we eat these things day in, day out? No. To be honest with you, we actually don't. Just because, to be honest with you, like eating something like a pizza or a pasty just doesn't make me feel as full based off calories, and definitely doesn't give me the energy that I want on the average day. Yeah. But having these things as and when you like, in more of a sensible way, is nothing should be put off the table. No. And we always say to clients, like, if you try and look at your average day of food, averages will align with what you're going to achieve on average. Yeah. So if you can think, you're eating 3 times a day, that's 21 meals a week. If we can aim to make at least 15 to 17 of their meals improve in terms of the nutritional density to start with, and more align with your goals, then that's already an improvement. So then if you've then got 4 or 5 meals a week that are a little bit iffy, then that gives us something to work with. And I'd say long term, if you can even get to the point where sort of 18 out of 21 of their meals are where they want to be, and you sort of have 2 or 3 off-plan meals a week, then you've really hit the sweet spot. And that's pretty much what we do. And that still allows us to progress, doesn't allow us to feel restricted, but also has enough structure for us to look, feel, perform, and move how we want. Right. Yeah,
but it's not something I would do probably a couple of years ago. If something like that would happen to me, before that I would have pizza or for dinner with some halloumi, and then English breakfast, and then obviously pasty for lunch. Today I would probably wake up feeling awful, thinking I've ruined all my progress, and I would start restrict like crazy. Where now I know, like you said, if the rest of the time the meals are, quite good, I can have those days. Rather than actually feeling guilty and dwell on things and then maybe actually ruin my whole week because I would just be sad about what happened in one day, because really 1 day or 2 days are not going to make much of a difference if for the rest of the time I am actually eating what I want to eat and not what I eat.
Yeah, very much so. And so one thing it would be interesting to obviously hear your perspective on, because a lot of the clients you're working with now, they obviously maybe lack quite a bit of like structure and direction with what they're doing. And if someone's like struggling from a nutritional standpoint in terms of like, maybe trying to stick to things, what type of advice would you give them initially?
Simplicity, like you said. Sometimes if you just need to focus and get yourself in a rhythm and a good routine, simpler is always better. Like rinse and repeat the same thing. Even when you're already on the journey now and you find yourself that maybe you're not progressing as you want to, just go back to basics. Like, even if, for example, it means that you're going to rinse and repeat 2-3 breakfasts, at least you know what you're eating. Lunches, dinner, again, make it nice and simple. Know what you're having, always lots of veggies, have your snacks, just be accountable for them. But like I said, simpler, better. And just knowing and remember, like, this is not a permanent thing. It's something temporary. So just get your head in the game, focus, and then you can start on variety again.
Yeah, for sure. I think the best thing to do is actually not go too restrictive and boring where you're literally just eating the same meal every day, but do limit your choices to a certain extent, and then think about how you can just change small elements of that dish to add variety. Whether it's you pull one thing out and push another thing in, and that adds variety straight away. It makes preparation time easier. You understand what's inside the food you're eating easier. It's more accurate, and you will progress faster. And then as you start to build more control and a bit of a baseline of knowledge, you can then obviously start to add in that variety because you sort of know how to do so. And I'm guessing that's very much what we do with our clients, right? I mean, a lot of people can overcomplicate things. They can worry about getting bored of something before even trying it. And therefore, like, they realize when they actually do it, they don't get bored. I mean, we very similarly, for no other reason than the fact that we enjoy how we eat. We don't change it too much. And it's like, goes back to that, old saying, like, don't change something or don't try to fix something that isn't broken, right? So I think that's a large part of it as well. So I'm guessing, just to like finish off then, it would be obviously, you've gone through this big fat loss journey for a long period of time. A large part of it was obviously winged to a certain extent, and I know you may have not done it necessarily how you wanted to, but it still somewhat worked. But then there was a bit of like a fighting situation to even hover around what was a couple stone above where you were now. And a lot of people do struggle with weight maintenance. Like a large part, we have 6 phases to our program. The first 2 are literally focused on fat loss. Everything else is focused on learning how to maintain longevity of health and fitness, and also actually just transitioning into focusing on different goals. So obviously for you, the last sort of 6 to 12 months, it's been the first time in your life where you've been focusing on goals that are actually not fat loss related, right? So there's a few good things about performance goals. First of all, it helps you maintain what you've achieved initially, because you're still going to be focusing on your health and fitness. You're still focusing on your nutrition and training because you want to have more energy to perform. You want to make sure you're recovering properly in between workouts. But the primary focus at the moment hasn't been, okay, am I still losing body fat? The primary focus is, have I been performing more? And like you said, your performance has been increasing, but in turn, it's allowed you to stay within a rough region of what you actually achieved by the shoot. But yeah, talk a little bit about that mental shift that you've had, obviously, and how that sort of benefited you, because it's the first time in your life that you've obviously now been focusing on more performance-based goals, where you're, like I said, your aim was to lose body fat, give or take, for 10 years, right?
Well, after the fat loss, Well, it's, to be honest, like, as silly as it might sound, the maintenance phase was probably a bigger challenge for me than the whole fat loss phase. Because when you're in a fat loss, you kind of chasing in the number or how you want to look or how you want to feel. Where I got where I wanted to be, and then started to learn about maintenance and, increasing my calories slowly because I was no longer in the dieting stage. It's tricky, going through diet my whole life and then knowing I can increase my calories quite a lot and still look how I want to look and keep my results. It can be a bit of a mind challenge, and you've seen it yourself, because my weight would fluctuate, but I just had to kind of stay consistent and trust the process. And then where I thought, oh, I can only probably eat like 1,600 calories to maintain where I am now eating 2,350 calories and I feel amazing. and I never thought I will be able to eat that ever, you know.
So quick, just need a quick answer. Was I right?
Yes, you was right. For one.
Because I told you that. So a large part of obviously what anybody can maintain is predominantly based on body weight. So this is what we do with clients. And we always say to clients, even if you've achieved your fat loss goal and you don't want to go into performance or anything else with us, just please give us at least 1 to 2 months after achieving it so we can help you maintain. Because it's so easy, like you said, just to resort back into previous habits. You've got to a stage where you feel happy and comfortable and confident. And like, you know, you got there, I got there, our clients get there, and it's an amazing feeling. But work is still needed in order to learn how to find that baseline. Are you going to stay exactly where you were when you hit your peak? Most likely not. But you can stay relatively close, you know, within sort of 10, 15, 20%. And that's really the aim, is to shoot for a big goal, feel great about it, and then learn how to stay roughly within that region. Otherwise, if you're literally resorting back to where you were previously, and for a lot of people actually going up heavier than you were before within a matter of months, then it's just not a great feeling. And there's also not a great relationship to build up your health and fitness.
No.
You diet down, you regain, you re-diet again.
Yeah, it's just the never-ending roller coaster. But the one thing, because I did it right this time, it was going slowly. Obviously, like I said, trusting you, trusting the process, knowing how my body reacts, and then you will soon realize when the calories are going up, it's okay, you know. And because where I go to obviously with calories now, and you know, I've changed my eating habits a little bit more because I used to be a big snacker, so I would probably not have like carbs with lunch and I would just have like a chocolate. I would still be within my calories, but it would reflect on my training. And then obviously when I changed that and I kind of look into my food quality and made sure my breakfast, lunch and dinner are really failing, that's where I've noticed obviously my strength increasing. And I kind of forgot a little bit about the weight gain I have, because I know I'm doing it for a reason and I feel amazing. So sometimes your expectation need to kind of align with what you're trying to achieve as well, because being lighter, yes, but I probably wouldn't be as strong as I am right now.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, it's only half a stone different, give or take, compared to a photo shoot, which bear in mind, at a photo shoot, you're pretty much at the bottom end of your weight's ever going to be. You're depleted, you know, it's like, if you can maintain within, you know, even 2 to 4 kilos of a photo shoot, then I think you've done a pretty good job. And that's basically exactly where you've sat. That's where I've sat. And that's really pretty much the aim, is never to actually keep that. And weight's going to fluctuate daily regardless. So yeah, I mean, going through that process slowly is obviously important. That's what we help clients do post achieving a fat loss goal. We think it's hugely important because we've literally been through it ourselves, and we both know it's a bit of a challenge. Because same again, it's like you've had this goal you want to achieve. There's been a huge build up towards it. And for some people, then there's actually no goal for a little minute. The only goal is to actually maintain it. And I'm guessing most people's version of maintenance and what actually maintenance consists of are two totally different things. And this goes back to what you said earlier, like it's being accountable and actually consistent and accurate of what you're doing for a short period. So as you're increasing calories, you want to ensure that what you are actually eating is correct. And really not actually change too much afterwards for a little minute. Keep everything the same.
Nothing really.
But just start to expand the portion sizes. And then after 1 to 2 months post fat loss, start to then introduce the variety once you know where the top end of your maintenance sits. And that's what we do with clients. We really give them that sort of 1 to 2 months initially, just for them to actually realize, okay, this is what I can eat on the average day, and if I stay here, I'll roughly maintain. We then teach them how to have more flexibility based off of them numbers, so they find their sort of sweet spot and more happy medium in terms of long-term maintenance. But it can take a little minute, and for most people it's a bit scary going back up, because obviously you've not had that increase for a little while. But really, if you don't go back up, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to stay restricted, which isn't healthy, and then most likely at some point just revert back up anyway, but revert back up uncontrollably. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm guessing maybe that's what you would have pretty much done before, when you lost a bit of weight, and then you would have obviously regained back what you've lost.
I would probably just go back to the mindset where I was, 75 kilos, but I am 11 kilos lighter, so that is much there is obviously difference. Like the lifestyle habits do need to change, and that's probably something I would not think about. I would just lose weight and then just go back to how everything was before. Where now, like you said, honestly nothing has changed since I've stopped my fat loss. I'm eating more calories, yes, but I'll probably look at the quality of the food even more, because obviously I'm focusing on the gym performance. But otherwise, I'm obviously doing less steps, but everything else just stays the same.
Awesome. Right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Anything else you would like to add?
No. Next time we can talk about you and your Ironman.
Well, we might have to book the studio out for 2 hours.
I'll prepare some good questions.
Well, thank you very much for tuning in. And also, Pavla, thank you for answering all them questions. Hopefully, first of all, it's giving you guys a better insight to Pavla's journey. I'll be back for my one at some point soon. And like I said, if this benefits some of you guys out there that listen to this, we are more than happy to do these regularly.
Yes.